Good afternoon. Welcome to the first podcast that I'm being really brave and having a go at for my Form 5 in particular. I am looking forward to seeing you all again on Monday, and I'm hoping that you are really ready for that literature exam on Monday. Now, if you are not one of my students, but you've just stumbled across this while you're looking for some last minute revision on Macbeth, this is going to be focused mainly on the Edexcel exam paper, but if you're doing AQA or WJEC, you should be able to pick up some tips as well. You'll obviously need to adapt the question to work for your exam board and the demands of the question. This podcast is going to be a short one and only looking at the section A for the Edexcel, in particular, which looks at close language analysis. Now, for all of us Edexcel people out there, this question is one in which you are a complete expert because all you have to do is focus tightly on the language structure and form that the writer uses in order to create effects for the reader. That's your AO2 question. It's identical in the way that you do this to the question 3 on language papers 1 and 2. So you are experts. So take comfort from that. If you're on AQA, I know that it is part of your overall whole text question. So you'll be able to pick up some tips about the way that you could look at the extract and use that. It will also help you to do your language and structure questions on your language papers as well. So I will also hopefully produce another podcast this weekend, which will be looking at the section B for Edexcel dudes, which is the whole text question, and then we'll have another one for the an inspector calls. Now I know that's paper 2 for AQA, so that will be for you for next week. Right, let me share my screen and we'll get going straight away. Okay, hopefully you are now able to see our mocked up paper. Now, this is a paper that I have made for you just this afternoon, and it is one based on Act 2, Scene 2, and it is a little section there, and the whole text question focuses on the supernatural, which is something that we haven't yet seen on Edexcel, although I know you have on AQA. So it's just an area that's worth revising because it's quite prominent through the whole play. First thing you're going to do then, scroll to the end, having had a very quick look here. This is from Macbeth from Act 2, Scene 2. In this extract, Macbeth has just returned from murdering King Duncan and his hands are covered in the king's blood. We're now going to scroll to the very end and check out what the focus of the section A and the section B question are for this one. So if we have a look at this, section question 1, section little a, explore how in this extract Shakespeare presents the character of Macbeth. So I'm just going to highlight that one for myself and make sure that I know I'm looking only at the character of Macbeth through this extract. I'm not going to focus on Lady Macbeth. I'm only going to be looking at Macbeth. What does he think? What does he feel? What does he say? What does he do in this extract? I can look at how Lady Macbeth speaks to him and acts, and that will give me ideas about him, but I want to make sure everything I say is about Macbeth. Now, just before I do that, I'm going to have a look at the section little b question, and that will then sit and mull away in my mind while I'm going through my extract. So in this extract, there's a reference to supernatural happenings. Explore the significance of the supernatural elsewhere in the play. So through the rest of this extract, through the rest of my question, when I come on to my section B, they're wanting me to look at the supernatural elsewhere in the play. Obviously, I'm going to pretend for that question that this extract doesn't exist, and I'm not going to talk about it because they would simply ignore things that I say that are about the extract because I get marked on that in my little A section. I'm going to look at other things. I'm going to make some notes for myself here. So if I'm going to go for the obvious things about the supernatural, the whole play, my overall comment is going to be the play is steeped in the supernatural. It opens in wild weather with witches and the prophecies. So that's 1, 1, 1, 3. And we've got those lovely 3 prophecies at the beginning that Macbeth and Banquo get given. Please excuse my typos. We then have got all of the supernatural things that happen in Act 2, Scene 4, the old man, who tells us about Duncan's horses eating each other. We have got the bit where we have got all the chimney stacks blowing down. And we've got all the wild things happening, the screeches and all the bad omens. So we've got all of that supernatural. Then the really obvious thing to go to is we've got the banquet scene. That's our biggie. And we can talk about the appearance of Banquo's ghost. And that's that phenomenal moment where Macbeth is terrorized by the ghost that only he can see. And then finally, we've got the return to the witches in Act 4, Scene 1, and we've got new prophecies that set Macbeth on his collision course with Macduff through the end of the play, where he's going to rely so much on the supernatural and the witches to steer his life that he's going to make so many mistakes, and that is going to be his huge downfall. His big hamartia, perhaps, is not only his overreaching ambition, it's also his reliance on the supernatural. So we can talk about that. So for this particular video, I'm only going to look at the A section. So I'm going to put that one to bed. I'm just going to leave that there. That's going to go over and over in my mind while I'm looking through this extract and going through this, looking at the presentation of the character of Macbeth. And I'm going to be ready, thinking about my B section for later. Okay, so right at the start of this extract, remember we want good coverage. If you're a little bit ploddy, a little bit worried, go for at the beginning of this extract, later on in the extract, towards the end of the extract. Rely on that structure that we learned for the language paper. You can't go too far wrong in relying on that. It will make sure you cover the scene really well. When you're targeting level 4 and level 5, you're going to be whizzing backwards and forwards through that scene, and you're going to be picking up all sorts of things. Now, if I have a quick look through that scene, I want to come up with an overarching comment for my cohesive evaluation of the way the language structure is used through this extract. What is going on all the way through this? And I'm just going to allow myself just to glance through it and have a look. Now, please remember, and I always drill my students in this one, spend more time than you think you can allow yourself. Minimum of 5 minutes on this extract. You can allow yourself 8 minutes or maybe even 10 minutes looking through this extract, planning your answer to little section B, to make sure that you have given it your best thinking, because you will write a lot more, you'll write a lot more quickly, and it's like giving yourself an extra 5 to 10 minutes in the exam. So do make sure you spend more time, absolute minimum 5 minutes plus your extra time. Don't forget it's not just for writing, it's for thinking as well. So if you have extra time, give yourself 25% extra time on your looking through the extract as well. 5 minutes plus 25%. So Macbeth's first thing that I noticed is it's a sorry sight. He is already showing remorse immediately. Remember those kind of comments immediately I'm seeing. That's evaluative comment. I'm immediately seeing remorse, and this is repeated throughout the extract with his need for prayers, blessing, and his inability to say amen, and his obsession with sleep. Those things are showing us how he is just becoming remorseful straight away. I could sum that up and say he's guilty. So that's my overarching idea that I'm going to see through this extract. Just scroll through this with me and see it. We've got murder. We have got sleep and prayers. We've got God bless us. Amen. Amen. God bless us. And when we look at it in this quick way, amen. Amen. We've got sleep, sleep, sleep. We've got sleep, murdered sleep, sleep, sleep. We've got a Macbeth who is utterly obsessive over this idea of sleep. We've got frequent and constant repetition of the idea of sleep and murder, which shows us that his conscience is dwelling on what he has done. He already knows he's committed that mortal sin. There is no escape from the punishment for this one. He cannot ask for blessing. He's going to hell. So we can immediately be making some really good evaluative comments even before we dig in. We've got the contrast here. Look at this oxymoronic idea here. We've got laugh against murder. Just look at that. Laugh and murder. Two really deeply contrasting ideas. You could look at the juxtaposition of those contrasting ideas deeply contrasting ideas and how they reflect his conflicted nature. He desperately, desperately wants this kingship. He really, really is ambitious and he thinks that he can take it, but he knows it's wrong. His Christian soul is telling him that it's wrong. And he knows that it is regicide he has committed, but his ambition wants the crown. And so he's conflicted. So we see these things through this extract. The two grooms were asleep, but they wake each other, but then they aggress them again to sleep. And this is where the idea of sleep comes in for the first time in this extract. And if we just highlight it through, let's just have a look at the words murder and sleep. How many times do we see murder and sleep? Methought I heard a voice cry, sleep no more. Macbeth doth murder sleep. Innocent sleep. Sleep that knits up the ravelled sleeve of care. We'll come back to that idea in later. The death of each day's life, sore labour's bath, balm of hurt's mind, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast. And you can hear. Now, if we just look at this bit, we've got this amazing thing going on here. In the middle of this extract, we've got this asyndetic listing. And that's that idea of listing that has no and or connective between it. So you get this tumult of thoughts outpouring out from Macbeth, and they are pouring down. He can't get away from his own thinking, and they're spinning. And he's obsessing over this idea of sleep and murder, because he knows he has done wrong. And we're seeing a Macbeth who is just at his wit's end already, and it's too late. He's murdered. He knows he can't go back on this. So he's absolutely stuck because he's done the deed. I have done the deed. Look at this beautiful image here. Knits up the ravelled sleeve of care. This beautiful, beautiful imagery. Knitting is something obviously productive and creative. We are making something. We're also mending. If we knit up, we mend it back. Just imagine you've sat with a woolly jumper, you've picked a hole in it and unravelled it. It's come to pieces, it's got this huge hole. You could take a needle and you could knit it back up again carefully, crochet it back together, and you could make that jumper good as new. And you could even make it so that nobody could see that you picked a hole in it. That is what Macbeth wants to do. Ravelled, unravelled, knit up and unravelled. We've got that opposition, those binary opposites going on there again, like sleep and wake, like murder and life. All the way through this extract, we see these binary oppositions with Macbeth's torn soul. The sleeve, obviously, is something that covers. So we've got this beautiful language. And then look at how it goes on. It's so soft in contrast with what he's done, the violence of the murder. Knits up the ravelled sleeve of care, the death of each day's life. We've got that alliteration with our d, d. There are quite heavy sounds. Sore labour's bath, balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast. They're all feeding images, healing images, in contrast to the sickness that he has created by his murder. It's beautiful, soft and gentle language, again contrasting the violence of his thinking. Balm and bath, we've got more of that beautiful plosive alliteration there of his thoughts spilling out so hard in there. Then look, still it cried, sleep no more. Macbeth doth murder sleep. Glamis hath murdered sleep. And therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more. The repetition there of sleep no more. Nobody is ever going to sleep anymore. He's done it. He's killed sleep. Therefore Macbeth shall sleep no more. Look at that, 3 times repetition. Sleep no more, sleep no more, sleep no more. Is he obsessed with the number 3 maybe? and are witches? Who maybe? His wife is absolutely desperate. Who was it that thus cried? Why, worthy Thane, and she tries to soothe him, having previously dismissed him, foolish thought, and consider it not so deeply earlier on the extract here. She now realizes he's not listening to her. She can't get through, so she tries a different tack. You can see how deeply obsessed he is and how much he's ignoring her by the fact that the woman who has manipulated, controlled, belittled, and emasculated him now comes back to building him back up. Worthy Thane, noble strength. She tries to appeal to that side of him to make him snap out because she knows they're going to get caught and she's afraid. He is obviously just standing, struck in the middle of the stage. We have no stage directions here. We have to rely on what she says and does, and what he says and does to show us those hidden stage directions. Excuse me. She interrupts him here in his list, which shows us that he's becoming so obsessive, the hyphen there, that she cuts into him and asks him, what do you mean? Another question. And she's desperate to get him to explain to her what he means. So we see all the way through this, we see a Macbeth who's utterly obsessed. Look at this repetition. If we put in a different colour, amen, and highlight the words blessing. And look how amen stuck in my throat. It's like he goes, like I'm struggling now with my voice today, and he goes to say, oh, amen, and he literally can't get the word amen out because he knows God will not bless him because what he has done is utterly unforgivable. He's committed that mortal crime of regicide. He's killed the king. One cried, God bless us, and amen the other, as they'd seen me with his hangman's hands. Listening their fear, I could not say amen when they did say, God bless us. So he bookends his speech with God bless us, and he sandwiches amen in the middle of that speech. And he cannot get that blessing, and he knows that he is now Satan, and he is going to be damned. One last thing that we can have a look at here. Look at this beautiful alliteration. Hangman's hands. And look at that. The breathing of that alliteration. It's like it's sighing from the depth of his soul. They'd seen me with these hangman's hands. And he's looking, there's probably a hidden stage direction there. His hands are literally covered in blood. He's seen me with these, and he sees the horror of it, and he can't get the words out. They'd seen me with these hangman's hands, and the actor on stage is standing there unable to speak the words. It's so horrid. And listening their fear, I could not say amen when they did say, God bless us. And that is because he's got that blood all over his hands. The impact of that on us as the audience, realizing the depth of his guilt, his remorse, and his realization that he has unknitted his soul. He has unraveled his soul for all eternity, and he cannot be forgiven. So if you are to go through this extract then and write your little section A answer, you can see a Macbeth who has already fallen to pieces because of the guilt and remorse and the understanding of the depth of the sin that he has committed. He's obsessed with murder. It's repeated and repeated throughout the extract. He's obsessed with needing blessing. It's repeated and repeated. And he's obsessed with the loss of sleep. It's repeated and repeated. Shakespeare's making heavy use of repetition in several different places in order to communicate the idea that Macbeth is utterly stuck on the crime that he has committed, which is a mortal sin. It cannot be forgiven, and so he cannot say his prayers when the grooms say their prayers. Amen stuck physically in his throat. He couldn't get the words out. You can go even deeper in this scene if you want to. You probably haven't got time. Hopefully that has been a really useful walkthrough. I will do a demonstration answer for you and I'll attach that to the video. You can have a look through and I'll mark that and show you the marking of that. I'll also publish this document and you can have that PDF as well so that you can look through that. I will do my best to get the time this weekend to go through a section B answer as well, so you can see the way that we'll look at the whole play. That will be more useful as well to our AQA and WJC friends. And I wish you every blessing for Monday. I will be there to see you before the exam, and to the students across the country, good luck. Remember that you are ready, you have prepared, and this is your chance to show what you know. Go into that exam full of confidence and give it your best. Good luck.